All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking something absolutely fascinating, Bruce Lee's legendary Jeet Kune Do. But we're not just going to look at this as a martial art or a standard set of fighting techniques. Instead, we're going to use the original training structure to explore a really profound philosophy of personal liberation and ultimate adaptability. It's so cool because we're going to see exactly how a purely physical discipline actually becomes a masterclass in freeing your mind.
And that brings us right to the core paradox of the whole system, perfectly captured in the iconic maxim straight from the source manual, using no way as way, having no limitation as limitation. I want you to really just sit with that for a second. How do you achieve ultimate freedom? Well, according to this philosophy, you do it by completely abandoning rigid structures and predictable patterns.
Which, naturally, leads us to a pretty provocative question. How exactly do you build a fighting style out of formlessness, right? If there are literally no limits and no set ways, how do you even begin to train? It sounds kind of impossible, but actually that's exactly the epic 5-level evolutionary journey we're about to explore today, moving step by step through the manual's incredibly structured path to reach total freedom. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to progress through 5 specific levels. First up, building the foundation. Second, the art of interception. Third, the water principle. Fourth, total combat integration. And finally, the ultimate goal, the style of no style.
Starting off with Level 1, building the foundation, the tools of the trade.
So, even formlessness requires a rock-solid physical foundation. Before you can break all the rules, you have to master the absolute basics of mechanics, stances, and discipline. The manual meticulously breaks down basic stances, like the on-guard position, keeping that strong side forward for maximum speed and reach. And the absolutely crucial concept driving all of this is the economy of motion. In Jeet Kune Do, there is zero wasted energy. Every single movement has to be utterly efficient. You are literally stripping away anything that doesn't directly serve your purpose.
Building on that incredible efficiency, the manual introduces the primary tools. The absolute most vital weapon here, the straight lead punch. It is the fastest, most direct strike you can throw. But, and the text makes this very clear, these basic strikes, kicks, and foundational combos, they aren't the end goal. They're merely physical stepping stones. You're basically just building up muscle memory so that eventually your body can move with complete physical freedom.
Moving right along to Level 2, the art of interception, stopping the attack. Now this is where things get highly dynamic. We're moving away from just throwing basic tools in a vacuum and stepping into the really high-stakes realm of speed and aggressive anticipation. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference. Traditional martial arts often rely on a rigid 2-step process, right? First you block, and then you strike. But Jeet Kune Do introduces the stop hit. It's a single, continuous action. You're intercepting your opponent's attack with an attack of your own. You're turning defense and offense into the exact same motion. But to actually pull off that stop hit, you need to master speed, timing, and crucially, broken rhythm. The manual describes using preemptive timing and feints to completely disrupt an opponent's intent. By breaking the expected rhythm of the fight, you create hesitation. You aren't just fighting their body anymore, you're essentially hijacking their mental processing.
Next up is Level 3, the water principle, fluidity and power.
Okay, here we're introduced to the true metaphorical heart of Jeet Kune Do, yielding, adapting, and flowing like water in response to whatever obstacle is in front of you. The source text really emphasizes the non-resistance response and absorbing force. Instead of clashing force against force, you flow around it. It's like, if your opponent pushes, you pull. If they pull, you push. Yielding to resistance, adapting instantly like water filling a vessel, is actually the ultimate method of control. But hey, don't mistake fluidity for weakness. Let's talk about Fa Jin, or short power. This is explosive, devastating force generated from a very short distance using your breathing, your core, and absolute physical focus. So we are hard pivoting from soft, flowing water metaphors to the devastating reality of sudden, explosive energy. The manual outlines these really intense, explosive breathing exercises and the mechanics behind the famous 1-inch punch. By channeling energy perfectly from the core and releasing it in just a fraction of a second, the practitioner proves that the water principle isn't just about flowing softly. It can absolutely crash like a tidal wave with devastating power from almost zero distance.
Let's accelerate into Level 4, total combat integration, blending the ranges.
Up until now, things have been somewhat categorized, but here, the rigid lines between striking, trapping, and grappling just completely vanish. Now, what's really interesting about this transition is how you start with a strike, which instantly melts into a trap controlling the opponent's arms, which then flows immediately into a grapple or a takedown. The combos demand that you stop thinking in terms of ranges and start moving formlessly between entirely different distances without a single microsecond of hesitation. To manage this crazy blending of ranges, the manual details the mastery of the 4 lines of attack: inside, outside, high, and low. By understanding these spatial lines rather than just memorizing specific techniques, a fighter can thrive in total unpredictable chaos. You aren't relying on a set pattern anymore. You are just naturally filling the open spaces that the chaos provides.
And finally, we've reached the climax. Level 5, the style of no style, total liberation.
This is where the manual asks the practitioner to do something absolutely incredible. Abandon everything you've built. Every stance, every rule you learned in levels 1 through 4, toss them in favor of pure instinctual expression. Just think about the profound psychological shifts required to actually achieve this. You have to find harmony with chaos. You must use no way as way. You literally train to break your own muscle memory so you never ever become predictable. You master fear management and ego liberation. We have moved way beyond physical combat now. This is entirely about unburdening the human mind.
To achieve that level of liberation, you must reach Wu Xin, or no mind. The source defines this as the cognitive state of acting and reacting purely instinctively, without any conscious thought, hesitation, or emotional blockage. It is the ultimate cognitive peak of Jeet Kune Do. Your mental speed is so incredibly fast that it completely bypasses conscious decision-making. You don't think, you just act.
The advanced drills here, which focus on reading intent and staying calm under pressure, prove that true mastery in Jeet Kune Do is entirely a mental achievement. When the mind is perfectly clear, completely devoid of anger or rigid plans, you can actually sense an opponent's intent before they even move. You're reacting to their thought, not their punch. How wild is that?
So the crucial point of this entire evolutionary journey is this. First, you build a rigid physical foundation. Second, you understand and adapt those rules. Third, you abandon all the rules entirely. Why? To reach what the manual calls the non-fighting state. The ultimate goal of learning to fight is actually realizing a state of complete, unshakable harmony where you don't have to fight at all.
We're going to end this explainer on a really provocative, lingering thought straight from the manual. Chop away the non-essentials. This isn't just about punching efficiently. It's a real challenge to all of us. What rigid structures, what outdated habits, what completely unnecessary rules do you need to chop away in your own life to achieve ultimate fluidity and personal freedom? Think about that for a while. Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible shared journey of discovery through the mind and mechanics of Jeet Kune Do.